It's May 10th. It's 2023. Um, I'm trying to put a piece together this morning of things in the field that the mirror dimension has brought to my attention. Um, in the weaving and the looming of things. Um, I was watching a piece of Dragnet, just a piece of their conjecture, the humans' conjecture that they put out there. In some of this conjecture, I don't want this to be lost. I know that there's a monarchy somewhere. I know there is an oligarchy somewhere. I know that there is a feudal system somewhere, a family feudal perhaps. And then there's this fight for what? Middle Earth? It seems they've destroyed the middle class. So now what do they have? Serfdom, where they don't want to be called slaves, but they want employment contract with benefits. But yet they hate the government. I don't understand the humans. I don't. I don't care what they call themselves. Americans, European, African, Latin. They confuse me. And so in this family feudal system, and then some want to call themselves AAPI, and I'm like, oh, that's a dynasty of another order that thoroughly frightens me in this colony-ish of New York, for which the NYPD, they call themselves entertainment police, and then they follow some penal code. Well, who's writing the code? Because it looks like the family men are a little off. Because at 10% population of something else, the X-Men would want me to call myself a mutant. And the rest humans. Well, does that put my life and liberty in danger? Again, en français, parlez-vous français avec moi? L'école. Oh. But Victor, the scientist, might call me Nicole. It's all Greek to me, or at least that's what they told me when I was in school. L'escola. So, in New York, in the, I don't know, what do you call it? Was it the Danish schoolhouse? It looked like strength in in small numbers of protected, so we wouldn't hurt one another. But I don't know. And then it feels like I was cast out or thrown out, actually cast out if it's a movie set, to some other St. John's thing that was going on. Um, to watch over other family feuds. So this gets difficult. And then to have this crazy donkey come after me in reputation, if nothing else, in reputation and storyline. Like if I put distance between us. There's one movie called Doctor Strange. The end of Doctor Strange has Doctor Strange himself, Master Strange, Doctor Strange, perhaps, I don't know. And then there's the beginning of the Avengers. Like, the problem is that people don't know how to categorize themselves and fit themselves in clean lines. So I, therefore, don't know, as like the in-between, I don't know how to move amongst them. Dragnet this morning had on an episode the humans created before I arrived of AID. Is that American Intelligence Division? There, they taught the Americans in public that it was a, he says something, he says it all, for me it's bien de résistance, but for it was something completely different, and I sit there and I'm like, that's interesting. And then there was a feudal differential, because another man in the room, he's like, don't you mean a coup d'etat? And I'm like, or he says coup de something, and I'm like, does he mean coup d'etat? Because again, it was a very real family feud that was going on before I got here in some faraway land, but is now in New York, which I know that at some place where Nikki exists or Nicholas exists and Nico exists, they keep an eye on these things. So there's that. Tom Hanks came out yesterday. He came off the movie Otto. I'm like, oh boy, how this family feud has gotten totally off kilter. And he was talking about the Writers Guild. Um, and then one of my local patrons yesterday or a few days ago said he would give me he would pay for a bus pass for me, which I thought was really nice, so I could get myself to Fresh Meadows, since Tiafrio took my car and won't allow me to have my keys back. But the man at the in-between that took the round key and has it, I don't know, is what, Totem, that we met? I think Dan from Study Hall has some letter. It really, Natasha Romanoff makes me laugh when she's in the Avengers, and she says they have trading cards with your signature. They might ask for your signature to Captain America, which looks very Benjamin to me. I'm just saying. Anyhow, so for at Planet, he wants me to go to Planet Fitness, and then I looked up Planet Fitness. Their headquarters is in New Hampshire. I was like, oh, Hampshire, the Hamptons party. Special Task Force Mark. I really did not think 13 years were gonna go like that on this side of the planet, just waiting for like what was already known about in the people that watch over this stuff. Why do I keep getting harmed amongst the humans? When is my retirement party into the whatever? I mean, I have nothing to show for it except some bad storylines and some really great movie acknowledgments and novelties, but they don't really do me any good in my real world. So it becomes a problem. Um, and then they said tonight that Trump is making some family man appearance, I suppose. Is he a family man? I mean, he represents the elephant at this point, even though he called himself the Don the whole time. But then again, there is this Hong Kong and Beijing family feud going on somewhere where I don't even have a systems analysis to update me on what I should be aware of, which puts me completely blind in the New York field, which makes it all the more dangerous, for which I try to stay sheltered in place and hold my tongue. But there has to be some form of trivia that gets answered at Family Feud in order for it to effectuate properly at real serious things, especially at executive function. So while it would logically make sense that the end of Doctor Strange would be the beginning of the Avengers for Generation X, I'm going to actually play it in movie parody or movie paradox or orthodox that they put up here in some standard of soul, so I can hear what the humans and the mutants have somehow agreed to, although I wasn't brought into that conversation, not in the real world, not in face-to-face meeting, but somehow some of my pieces from the field of intelligence has been brought into some counterintelligence or some para-intelligence and created some industry for which I have never benefited from in any real way. Which actually goes back to another thing. They're working on something in Washington, so they say, um, where they have to pay all these bills. I think one of their biggest bills are the veterans' salaries. So I'm like, whose veterans are we paying for at Family Men? Like, that would be my question if I could get a meeting with Dad, but he seems to be really jammed up his schedule with other things going on. And have we overpaid for billing in that department? I mean, these, some call them legal fees, right? So why are some of the children who are closer to Dad have more say, more power theoretically than me in the field having, I mean, but again, I have a grand uncle somewhere. Um, and then there's, of course, somebody was kind enough to send me this book, The Overstory of Richard Power. My son, this is a library copy, but my son was, they purchased The Purple Emperor and sent it to my Benjamin um, a while back in order to keep, I guess, his linguistical skills up and running, whether he read it or not. I'm not going to comment on. However, these books were bought for us at Signs of Intelligence and sent. At the time, I didn't realize just how in depth the Family Feud was going on and just how imperative it may have been to read the books, nor being able to even recognize the signs and symbols that the ancestors were sending. So, in like nobody, I mean, there's not a single phone call, there's not a single IM. One of the movies mentions that, and how does witchcraft really work? Well, we're the 10% and the in between worlds. So, I don't really know how to tell the humans, and I didn't really think I had to. I thought the Family Men had my back and had control and were going to, like, again, there is for next gens at, there is importance, although I know some um, are frightened of mutants and things, but again, so here's the Avengers from 2012, or this version of it. Some of it's been modified. This one comes up with Paramount 100 for Thousand Island dressings.
The Tesseract has awakened. It is on a little world, a human world. They will wield its power. But our ally knows its workings as they never will. He is ready to lead. And our force, our Chitauri, will follow. The world will be his, the universe yours. And the humans, what can they do but burn?
Now, what I find interesting, this now has come in the Marvel superhero realm to represent New York, a hashtag of sorts. I'm stationed here, I guess, Bayside Station at this point. It's where I arrived in 1978 before I've been moved around a whole lot, not really getting anywhere, just a whole lot of storylines that don't seem like a good idea at Dad's office, but I don't know who's running the show or who's writing these scripts. Um, but they actually like living a double life. Yeah, there's the life that Dad wanted me to lead with a appropriate executive function, respectable mate, and then there's the what actually happened, and then there's the real tribunal who wants to know who's responsible, because that may be more trivia and feudal items of greatest concern to the 10%, to the X-Men, and to the humans. This came out 2016.
So Earth has wizards now, huh? Tea? I don't drink tea. What do you drink? No tea. So I keep a watch list of individuals and beings from other realms that may be a threat to this world. Your adopted brother Loki is one of those beings. Worthy inclusion. Yeah. So why bring him here to New York? It's a bit of a long story. Family drama, that kind of thing, but we're looking for my father. Oh, okay. So if you found Odin, you'd all return to Asgard promptly? Oh, yes, promptly. Great. Allow me to help you.
Now I know the Carol that I met in the field. In New York, he came with a Lion. And that was at the time of Chase. My biological clock had already arrived in 2005. I think it was around 2009. I was driving the royal blue BMW at that point, right before my finances took a dive for the worst, because I cannot afford to live off of $38,000 annually in New York. But that's the bar that they set. Rather than giving me an executive function, they gave me a lobby position on surveillance camera and pretty much had me work so I could try to lose everything. I don't know, at Family Feud, like, this very much looks like punishment for which I didn't deserve. So this AID, America Intelligence Division, I don't really know, at Dragnet, the year was 1970. It has an elf, for anybody who cares, in the date. It's called The Week End, and it's S12E17. It is amazing how the sounds of this world, when it hits the ear, I didn't pronounce whether it was WEEK or WEAK, but again, those are the American language, I suppose, at this point. English put out, and then America learned it as America learned it. And now I'm just speaking what America sounds like after studying some English arts, but not to the totality of an area that is closer to, let's just say, the monarch for the English. So here we are.
Nice, huh? You betcha. And now, gentlemen, we are ready for the piece de resistance.
Piece de resistance. Did he mean Pierre de resistance? I learned it a different way. And then the answer comes out sounding like this. And this is on this Me TV for New Jersey and New York. Just so, I mean, and the funny thing is, in that Doctor Strange, Stephen Strange most certainly says Greenwich Village, not Greenwich, Connecticut, where there was some weakness in my father's real ability to get to the next level with Douglas and the brokerage business. Was a definite problem. He had offices across the nation. And then there is this New Hampshire. And I remember one of the whatevers I walked through, I woke up in someone's car, don't know what year, don't know what time it was. but I had on aviator sunglasses. I was in a white car on the outside, and we were driving in a caravan, and it was my person. And he smiled, and he was so happy I was awake, and I didn't know what had happened to me. But again, it's the same person who keeps, I mean, it's the one that I call Superman, because that's what he told me to call him at one point. Um, so I don't really know how else to journal it other than what he gave me to call him. And he gave me a piggyback once, and it was not the same person who piggybacked me across Hofstra University. That was somebody different. Just in case somebody at Family Feud's trying to steal the in-between credits.
Coup de grace. We now take the...
I find that interesting. This face is saying...
You betcha.
Coup de grace. And I'm like, wait a minute, you mean coup d'etat?
Nice, huh? You betcha. And now, gentlemen, we are ready for the piece de resistance. You mean the coup...
Again, at Dad's office. You mean the coup d'etat? Because that seems like in the Family Feud and the trivia and the trivial seems like really important facts. I know, like, Victor at the science program doesn't like to get his part wrong. He likes the trivia facts to line up just so. Again, it's all Greek to me, I suppose. Except when I went to the Greek place with the Polish woman, Greek no longer looked Greek. Greek looked Afghanistan, and that's for certain. And he works, strangely enough, he works inside the entertainment department at NYPD. And I'm like, how did that happen? Does Felix know that there's this much going on in my very real while I'm having executive functioning problems in like the executive office? And like, how are they being fed the details and by whom? And between the French and the Spanish wars, are they updating my file appropriately? And why don't I have direct contact with anything in like a dragnet? Like, here they talk about systems analysis. I'm going to go to that. I'm like, is it because I'm white? Is it because I'm a mutant? Is it because I'm 10%? Is it because you're trying to hold me here amongst the 90%? Or is it because I'm a woman? Now here, this is
The score. What do you mean, what's the score?
them talking about being part of a family.
I'll tell you what I think it is, Joe.
Yeah, what's that?
A fact of natural life. The human animal wasn't designed to live alone. It's bad for his health. Man is definitely a monogamist.
That's right. The family is just like a system, and the human being functions best in a family system.
Now, are we talking about, like, the colony? Are we talking about, like, because at Vice and Virtue, I think the kiddos are a little confused. Just saying, the way the stories, the scripts, the opportunities, the way that they've branded one another, I really think that the family men and the executive function and how they choose candidacy and how they distribute opportunity is really far off the mark. I mean, if Victor at the science department knew, and who is going to break the news to him? So this is where I'm learning that this function exists somewhere in some department. Again, there's been so much opportunity that's been withheld from my even being able to achieve it. There's been so much educational construct of how the humans are existing in this area. I don't know why they're keeping it from the mutants. Again, at funding and who works at the World Bank, I thought mutants were incredibly important. But, I mean, like when the bills come due, the mutants are really important people to know. But I don't know why the humans keep performing in this manner. It's really confusing.
By the way, what do you men do for a living?
Well, I'm a systems analyst myself.
Oh, what's a systems analyst do?
I analyze systems.
Makes sense.
It's no joke, that's exactly it. I analyze systems to see if they can work with other systems, how they can be improved, or if they can't work, why.
What he means is he's a glorified efficiency expert.
There's a lot more to it than just efficiency. I mean, time and motion studies are part of it. But what it really boils down to is the system design logic, right? And does it interface with the other system design logic?
Interface?
Right, let me give you an example.
You had to put a dime in the computer, didn't you?
LAPD has jurisdiction over the city of Los Angeles, right?
During the daylight hours, we're not so sure at night.
Well, anyway, the rest of the county is protected by the sheriff's department, right?
I thought you were going to tell us what interface was.
I'm getting to that part. Now give me a street where LAPD has one side and the sheriffs have the other.
Vermont Avenue and 77th Division.
Now that's an interface where the transfer of function takes place.
But it's the city limits. Everything outside of the city belongs to the county, Rob.
And that's called an interface.
Yeah, that's what my wife says about her cold cream.
Beg your pardon, Dan?
I said that's what my wife says about her cold cream. When she puts it on, it goes right interface.
Come on, deal the cards, Robert.
Laugh all you want to. But the time will come when whether we survive as a race of people will depend on how well we've analyzed our systems. You're seeing system breakdown all around you. Mark my words, the day will come when you'll call your systems analyst the same way you call your family doctor.
Deal, Robert.
Deal, Robert.
I forgot how many each person gets.
One apiece until they're all gone.
So, hello, 1970s. I arrived 1978. I'm in the year 2023, and I don't have access to a systems analysis. So I'm kind of sort of trying to perform my own, but again, where do these men exist? Since I only see men at the table, and I have real concerns and needs, and I don't know how to update them properly and fix my very real situation that someone in the feudal or the trivial department, like, forced upon me. I would have never written the script for myself, and I refuse to accept it as a final outcome. Now, on May 9th, 2023, Tom Hanks was on CBS Mornings, and this is a piece of his conjecture, speaking on the writers in Hollywood or in movie land.
Exactly how I have felt.
That's a line of page 97. Making movies is more fun than fun. Well, what's not fun right now is a writer's strike. Can you give us your take on that? They've got a really good case, it seems.
The entire industry is at a crossroads, and everybody knows it. The financial motor has to be completely redefined, and there is some degree of pie here that is going to have to be equitably distributed by the people who are responsible for the content. Not the folks who make the deals for the content, the folks who actually make it. And first up is the writers. We do not have scripts without writers.
It all starts with the written word.
And up next is the directors. We do.
Now, see, it's interesting listening to him say that, because on one technicality, the way that the system completely forgot my importance and where I belonged, and the way that they handled my youth in problems that could have been eradicated and did not need to be tested or experimented with or reported in however they were reporting back then, or looking the other way, or whatever they do not to agitate Nicholas in his cage, whether he's looking over New York from here or if he is like the hawk and he is just at a distance. It did not have to be performed this way or written this way. Now, there's storytellers involved who have been fighting through the big screen, and it's been warped. And I mean, when does it come back to center intelligence? Like the center. I mean, the King's Guard Beyond is really curious because, again, Victor the scientist likes his facts straight, and I haven't been talking.
You do not have filmed stories without directors, and the actors are coming up as well. So there is going to have to be some sort of sit down, and for the common good of the story, the arts and sciences, and the business of show.
Yeah.
Like minds are going to have to come down and be equitable, and
we all
come up
hope.
with, believe it or not, some type of win-win situation.
Yes, we all hope that this doesn't last long. The other thing that's fun about you, they call you an American treasure, and I'm sure you hate that. But honest to God, Tom, I don't know anybody. We call this Tom Hanks Tuesday.
Yeah.
I don't know
Is
anybody.
every Tuesday Tom Hanks?
Yeah.
Well,
All right,
I'll see you at a food truck out on the
I'll see you
street.
next Tuesday. But you and Rita also have so much fun. The video of you guys at Bruce.
Yellowstone taught me a word, branding, and I've heard brandishing. And then, of course, there's this, I mean, my name translates in Greek to victory. So again, when I say the victor likes the science details correct, and then when they are off, what happens to the candidate or the niece? Again, that could be a French term, but I didn't mean it as such at Cologne, because I don't know how many other family feuds are going on. Again, I've remained in New York on the state side, which again, I don't want to be punished even further for not having been able to travel very far. Now, it seems as if New York had a psychology department, if and only if, because I'm not agreeing to how they've whatever, but it looks like they've answered. In X-Men terms, there is this character, Jean, with the Wolverine. Wolverine has this special metal in his bones. Oh, he sounds like such an amazing family man. But anyhow, and he just cannot die. So that seems really important at executive function. And if I romanticize about it in Screen Guild, I'm just, oh, he sounds like a real catch. But again, then there's this Jean that he's in love with. In like, if there's no characters for me to visualize, just if it's on paper, because that's where I live at the moment, is just on the paper in the details. I don't really look to see what their character portrayals is, because I don't want to upset Nicholas or Victor about who they chose. So there is this Jean that they chose, and then there was this thing between them where she turns into this phoenix, and then there's a scene between the two of them. But again, just like in a theater company, when there's no actors picked for the specific playbill, the story reads however the story reads, and you can romanticize about the characters and the relationships, and there's no anything else involved in it. That's at the moment when I speak on these things, that's where I live. I happen to see, because of New York and where I am in whatever, I sometimes see mimics or doppelgangers to real world, like Gannon and Sergeant Friday. I noticed that Jane Fonda's coming out with a book club. She did 80 for Brady. I'm like, funny. The Intrepid is at its 80th anniversary. I wonder if she knew when she was doing the 80 for Brady as Patriots. And then there's this, and I know nothing about her real life. I didn't follow her journey. So she, again, is just one of these storyboard characters for me on paper, with a photo. It's like at a modeling agency, you just see their headshots. That's all I really see. Because here's memories right there from the 1980s That was the only workout coach I ever had was on a VHS tape. And it says, like, her shirt looks very Freddy Krueger. So again, my grandfather got, his funeral home was Frederick's. So again, details being what they were. And nobody really showed up other than, just so the Italians know, when my grandfather died. He's an Alpini. Lewis and myself and few family members were there with him by his side. Nobody really from New York showed up. Just how is the treatment in this area? And then I see Jane Fonda in 2021, and she has a shirt on, something about Fire Drill Friday. No idea what she's campaigning for with that kind of a shirt. But she is in her 80s, and she just says you have to keep moving. So here we are at Earth Doesn't Stand Still for just anybody. So this is the Jean Carroll. So I don't know, is that X-Men's way of putting the donkey and the elephant back in line to like quell any disruption in service in New York, since family feuds do exist, and if it's tribal, it can get very messy and frightening. And there still are like living, moving whatevers that reside here.
We welcome you back to CBS Mornings. We've been reporting on the historic federal jury decision that Donald Trump is liable for sexually abusing and defaming magazine writer E. Jean Carroll. The civil jury awarded Carroll $5 million in damages yesterday. They deliberated for...
So now, for me, just so Generation Y and Z, the ones that scratch their heads and go, why? Why? To everything. And you're like, okay, so now in Greek, why is the lowercase gamma? Just so you stay up to gear with the Writers Guild when they're like, it's a slight case of gamma. Right, yeah, okay, so that's your why. Because next gens are here and like baby boomers got some things wrong and it's causing a real whatever, tussle, tumble. I don't really know how to verse it. With all the variables between separation of baby boomers to Gen X, and then the Ys are on the field, and the Xers are like, I thought I exercised this properly, but I'm thinking that maybe I was fed the wrong baby boomer information, and now Generation Z and some millennials are here, and like this is getting real messy. So anyhow, so I don't know if this is like baby boomers coming to terms for family feudal reasons. I don't know if that's why the writers are on strike, so we can get our heads together and back in the game, so this way like humanity survives, because the mutants are having some issues, and I need some clean lines.
For less than 3 hours before making their unanimous decisions. On social media, the former president called the verdict a disgrace and said that he will appeal. We're joined now by E. Jean Carroll and her attorney, that's Roberta Kaplan. We welcome you both to CBS Mornings. Let's start with you, E. Jean. You have never wavered over these years. The jury came back for many people surprisingly fast. What did you think when you heard their decision?
I had the exact reaction you just had before the camera came on. You said when you heard it, you went, hooray! That's how I felt inside.
Because here's what happens to me at my level of intelligence in New York is I am frightened of baby boomers leaving their human-looking skins and shells and dying off and inheriting all the secrets they kept and all of the storyline they perpetuated in the wrong directions. And all the the ones that take their secrets to the grave and didn't share with the rest of management, which is what caused some of this malformation, we'll call it. Some call it dysfunction, some call it malformation. But it is a very serious concern to the mutants of the in-between.
Every blood vessel in my body jumped up. with a complete and utter joy. It was a wonderful feeling.
You know, but they did not find Donald Trump guilty of rape. And I think many people are very confused by that, Roberta Kaplan. They awarded her $5 million and said that she had been sexually abused and defamed, but not raped.
So I'm not going to get into the details of New York law. I don't think it would be appropriate for morning TV. But suffice it to say, suffice it to say that sexual abuse, what they did find him guilty of, is a very, very serious offense in New York. And it's not a little thing. So A, it's that, and B, this was always a defamation case. Mm-hmm. And what they also found is that he lied. And he lied to Hurdy Jean Carroll, and everything he said about her was untrue.
But already Mr. Trump's attorneys were saying yes.
Now, I don't know how this pertains back, and I'm not going to read it into like this particular record, but when I say that Tia Frio is an insult to my intelligence, I mean the actual human, because that's all he is. He and the other one are humans. And I remain as a mutant amongst humans, two of them, for which I don't know how the crazy donkey performs at his NYPD function. I don't. Or at his shield of whatever he's part of. What I do know is that my executive function amongst humanity has been harmed. I don't know by whom, but I do know that the 1975 arrival of the blacksmith is most certainly an insult to my intelligence. And that might be the intelligence at Victor the scientist. I'm just, like, there's real serious repercussions that happen in why are things happening in New York, which is what Generation Y keeps asking, for which those of us somewhere between baby boomers and Generation X peacekeepers, at Greenpeace or otherwise, have yet to really been able to effectuate answers. And so somebody has to take this seriously and try to put the pieces back together while there still is solidarity and anchors of reality. Because is there a shelf life on intelligence? There very well may be. I don't really know how to answer that at this point, but I see pieces of reality falling through the cracks in this area, and I'm just going off of what I can ascertain in the moment from the field to build some kind of construct of intelligence in order to answer things that are not spoken of in my daily walkabouts. Very few people call me by my name, Nicole. Even fewer know my blood type. I don't wear that on my sleeve. I don't speak about it. But it is a concern when I've been out in public and there's a movie out there in X-Men territory where they're trying to inject the mutants with needles. And I've had that happen to me in New York, unexpectedly, just came out of nowhere. But there's always Dad's family men that seem to be there, but then they just disappear into the shadows. And they make record of it for me on my behalf, but I don't know if it's on their behalf and Dad's behalf at family men of some executive office and function that is some kind of like shadow in order to document the goings on. So this way, if it's ever called into whatever, the child affected cannot be defamed because it happened. Whether they can recall it or not, there were witnesses in the field and it was documented somehow. That's how God works, the God.
Yes, but he's not a rapist. That's what this case was about. And in that respect, he was not found guilty of the most egregious charge.
He's a sexual abuser and a liar, and those are two very serious things, and a jury, listening to the evidence, found that that's what he did and that he lied.
Ms. Carroll, what do you think this means for other accusers?
Well, I think yesterday was before the verdict came in. There was a concept of the perfect victim. The perfect victim always screams. And the perfect victim always goes to the police. And the perfect victim always writes it in her diary. And the perfect victim, after she's been raped, her life is supposed to fold up and she's not supposed to ever seek happiness or career success again.
Now, again, I know she's answering. I don't know if she's a mutant. I don't know if she's a human. She looks human to me. And she looks like borderline. Like, could be mutant, could be human. Can't quite tell. That's how, like, alien intelligence works in a way. And so she's saying these things. I didn't get that book. I didn't get that script, and I don't talk to enough women. I don't go talking my personal story to just anyone. If I say it once, I usually think that's enough. I gave it to God. I move on. I've got real serious things. And then, just like Natasha Romanoff in the Avengers movie, where she's speaking to this one person in the middle of some Russian fight, and then all of a sudden she gets a phone call from like the American airmen. It was very much like my mojito moment in some bar, in hole in the wall bar in New York that I got pulled into. I mean, again, like I could say it looked like Harry Potter and like the whole wall just moved, and like, because I know how important the mojito person was in that moment and in real life. But I don't know his name or function within the greater system. So to build him context and raise him up appropriately to father and the executives, I don't have correct words to do so. And I'm going through my own struggle between the mutants and the humans.
And yesterday, they said there's not such a thing as a perfect victim. We find him guilty of this.
He keeps saying, Eugene, he does not know you. He has no clue. He's calling you a liar. Did you and Donald Trump that day at Bergdorf's, how did you even come to be together in that particular moment? Did you know each other?
We had met briefly before, and we had he came to visit our television studio, and we think that he recognized me because when I was leaving Bergdorf's. He was standing outside. He went like this. Stop. And so I stopped. And he came through the revolving door and he said, "Hey, you're that advice lady." Mm-hmm. And I said, "Hey."
And did he ask you for help or something?
Yeah, no.
So
he said, "I have to buy a present for somebody. Come help me." And of course I was delighted because this is my whole reason for living, is to advise people. And so I took him to the store and we looked at presents.
Roberta, Lindsey Graham, an ally of former President Trump, cast doubt on whether the former president can get a fair trial in New York, in Manhattan. Talk to us about the jury makeup. You said this was a tough jury when we were chatting earlier. Why do you say that?
And Donald Trump has called it a witch hunt.
Yes, so the jury was 6 men and 3 women. So already that's not exactly who you would expect or would necessarily want in a case like this. 6 men, 3 women. I think only one of them lived in Manhattan. One of the others lived in New York City, and all the rest, I think, lived outside of New York City. So Donald Trump could not be more wrong.
And what did they do for a living? Do you know? Can you give us something about who they were?
The judge told us we had to respect anonymity, and I don't want to violate that in any way. But suffice it to say, they were mostly working class people. Exactly the couple that Donald Trump thinks are his greatest fans, and they all found against him and found that he lied.
Were you surprised the jury came back so quickly?
Shocked.
Why?
I've never had a jury case get decided that quickly. That's rocket speed for a jury. They must have known right away what they wanted to do. And we were all shocked by how quickly they came in.
Ms. Carroll, you're on TV today. Donald Trump will also be on TV today. He's scheduled to appear, not here, but on CNN with a town hall in New Hampshire. Voters are going to have an opportunity to ask questions of him at that town hall. What questions or question would you like voters to put to the former president in light of this decision?
Oh, I can't imagine. To me, I don't think of this as being political. That is an impossible question for me to answer, but I want to tell the people who are about to watch CNN tonight, Donald Trump did it. Mm-hmm. Donald Trump did it. Mm-hmm. And all his saying, no, is not true.
Tell us, after all these years, E. Jean, why you stuck with this case. And certainly you're going against someone who's very prominent. You knew that when you put it out there publicly that he was going to come after you. And yet, you know, I work at Oprah Magazine, and I worked with a former colleague of yours who was singing your praises and said, look, I worked with her years ago. She is a truth teller in what she does. She works very hard. I mean, why did you stick with something like this when you knew that your character was going to be attacked?
See, now, my whole life, I've only heard of this Oprah book club. I've stayed away from it. But now I hear that Jane Fonda, she came out with a movie. Now she has a book club. It's something, it's a fact that's now in Hollywood. I mean, it seems like, will I watch the movie? Probably not. But the fact that they made the effort and put the money into giving Jane Fonda a book club to counteract this real world Oprah book club thing speaks volumes.
I'll tell you how I stuck. I stuck because of Robbie Kaplan. And when I would fall
More than Robbie Kaplan, though.
No, I'm telling you. I had a team behind me of brilliant, caring women. So if I ever had a feeling like, oh my God, what am I doing? What am I doing? They were there to, they were my strength and my power. And also, I wasn't doing it for me. I just took myself out of the equation. This is for every woman in the country. Every woman. So, this is the woman who pulled it off.
And to people that still doubt you today, you know, he has a lot of support, Donald Trump, which is why the judge told the jurors, if I were you, I would not do any interviews. Right. I would not reveal my identity. You're setting yourself up to be threatened, as you have been, to people who doubt you today still.
There's nothing I can do about it. He did it. We won. Donald Trump is guilty. And the odd thing is, with all the legal traumas he's facing, with all the special prosecutors and all the investigators, it is this woman, 5'3", a female attorney, and this is a elderly advice columnist of 79, and we are the ones who are the first ones who are holding Donald Trump accountable.
You have a lot of support, as does he.
Yeah, he does, and you know, people are going to be talking about this decision for a long time. People are going to be talking about that deposition for a long time. But we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much for being here this morning. I am going to add something that you've heard before, and you know they're going to appeal. Donald Trump continues to say he doesn't know you, he didn't do it, and his lawyers.
That you are not his type.
They are going to appeal this decision. But we're going to move on for now. Ahead, the story of a Utah mother who wrote a book on grief after her husband's death.
So it's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. What I am most concerned with, I spoke of this allergy that comes, it's like rhinosinusitis, again, olfactory. OLEFACTOR for medical. Rhinosinusitis is what they say when you get a nose job, but again, I don't want that to be reread in at a different level of whatever, of spin. My concern is there's been an influx of migrants into the New York area for decades. If I start at my grandfather in like early 1900s, at the beginning of the century until now, I don't have the equipment or the systems database or the systems analysts to ask if they could look into this. There are toxic plants on this earth that cause inflammation through pollen, and they call it seasonal allergies. I have seen news stories where they show that there's been an uptrend. Now, with these migrants from elsewhere, no idea but if they're being paid in order to plant foreign botanical species inside the local New York area that then causes medical decline. These are just stacked biomedical problems that I've noticed, and I don't know, because I don't know if they're targeted biological attacks that seem seemingly innocent in order to try to break down, for lack of the oligarch and the monarch. I know there's a lot of anger I've heard some of the humans talk about it. I'm trying to live in the mutant world, but not to agitate the humans, but they're supposed to work in some consort. One looks over the other and then has this ability to in between. So whichever on that. But those are one of the things that I don't know how to start an investigation on. And to have a city something go out into the field and report properly. And I don't even know if they have the correct updated lists, because I don't even know if they're any longer in an English language. I don't know if they're holding them back as part of their extortion tactics in order to get their billing department heard better. But I know that somewhere in like a Hogwarts where they have Snape and whoever teaches, not Trelawney, but I forget the name of the exact professor in a Harry Potter kind of a way. But there are plants and pollination concerns I have, and how it's affecting not only mutant but humans in this local area. And it could have been something that was planted 5 decades ago that went undetected but is out in the field. And now I don't know if landscape artists and the landscape architects and then the actual work crews and who's running the nursery at botanicals and how that and horticulture and all these other agricultural words that have been kept from me on building reality and a community at EMS. But it concerns me because it's just one more layer. Just like, is it safe to eat beef? Is it safe to drink the milk? Is it safe to drink the water? I haven't been able, just so Victor, the scientist from elsewhere at the Great Beyond knows, or at the King's Guard Great Beyond, just because center line intelligence, I'm having a few issues, because I don't know who the reps are and what the correct societal, like nothing's been built or constructed. And I'm like doing Facebook stuff, but I'm like, that's FB. I was like, are the Facebook investigators? Like, I mean, is that going to like agitate them? Because I don't really know who they are. But it seems kind of like a crucial thing that the things that I'm thinking of with just my high school diploma and some matriculated university and college credits studying the human biology and microbiology seems incredibly like important at a very basic level to protect the others that didn't get to go to medical school or haven't lived their entire career in a surgeon facility or a hospital facility and may sit on boards of things, pharmaceuticals and otherwise, where those are really large chemical compounds. And some of us don't even have basic chemistry down. So how does that conversation work in a respectful manner? Because again, I've got lower gamma like radios going off thinking they're friends with the candidates from the X-Men who were following the baby boomers but led to this. And like there's some very real, if I do systems analysis according to the AID in the dragnet category, there's some real concerns and real logistical concerns I have. And I don't know if I'm just being ignored because I'm white, because I'm a woman, because they've said I'm a mutant, because I'm being held amongst humans, and it's really hard to tell the difference to people that don't have personality or profiles on the population. And I don't even know who those people are at Family Men. So it's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. It's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken. And it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.